introduce Richard here from Text Help, who's going to go through Read and Write with us this afternoon. That's something that all pupils and teachers within Aberdeenshire have got access to on their devices. So, it's really useful for you coming along today to find out exactly how you can get the most out of it. So I'm not going to take up any more of your time, Richard. I'm going to pass right on to you. Thanks very much.
Julia, thanks a million, and thanks for the opportunity. Fantastic to be able to share Read and Write with all of you. Hopefully everybody is now able to see my screen overview of Read and Write. That's exactly what we're here to do today. Is that all good?
Yeah, we can see that.
That is perfect. There are 32 slides here, but don't be alarmed by that. I'm going to rattle through these. These are just for visual purposes and also to set a little bit of context. I suppose the why behind what we do and why would you start implementing Read and Write with your students, and passing that message on to your colleagues as well. Anybody that's catching up on the recording here, but basically education for everyone is what we're about at Text Help. As Julia and Jim have introduced me there, I'm Richard from the customer success education team within Text Help, and I've popped my details. As Julia says, the session's recorded, so don't feel like you have to scribble down my details. But I suppose it's a bit of a oxymoron this one, but we're a large, small to medium-sized company now, Text Help, but we love keeping that personal touch with end users, making sure that people have the ability to maximize the potential and use of the software with students. So at any stage, anybody wants to reach out, ask a question, have a chat with me about some of the things that we've covered today, feel free to do that. That's my email address, team email address, Twitter handle, telephone number on there. So please feel free to do that. It'd be great to hear from anybody to have a chat with you. And there's the rest of the team. Julie and Jim, you'll know some of these guys from BET, but Brendan, Haley, Dan, Jackie, and Anna are the team behind customer success or customer care at texthelp.com. Any of the guys will be more than happy to have a chat, help out with anything, any queries that you do have going forward. But today, learning outcomes of today, we're going to look at the fundamentals. I've put ordinance in there as a bit of a mistake, but the fundamentals certainly of Read and Write. So don't worry if you're not an expert user or haven't even used Read and Write very much at this stage. That's what we're either going to give you a refresher today or introduce you to the tools within Read and Write and how they can be used to maximum benefit amongst your students. And then finishing up with a quick look at Text Help Academy. Julie, I think that was one thing you were keen to cover today, just to see what online resources are available on our online portal as well. Just interesting, this provides a little bit of a background to what we do and to help contextualize things. This is a campaign, a survey that Text Help conducted across the UK very recently, the Words Can't Hold Us Back campaign. So just think for a minute, what percentage of UK adults do you think struggled or responded by saying that they struggled with some form of literacy during their education? And this could be a few seconds to think about what percentage you think that completed that survey said. And the answer is 36%, which is extremely high percentage. And then moving on from that, what percentage of UK adults said they didn't get enough support with reading and writing during their education? And that actually increases to 37% of adults wish that they had received more reading and writing support during their education. So with the use of Read and Write and the tools that we're building at Text Help, you're already given all your students right across the council a fantastic opportunity to access the content that they're being provided with through the curriculum and build a much better understanding and putting their knowledge down on the page as well. The literacy challenges can impact on everyday life. This is again from the same survey. 25% of adults feel embarrassed when reading aloud to preschool children, and 39% find it hard to understand paperwork such as phone contracts. In such a digital world, essential skills and the use of technology that's available, and putting that into the hands of our students is absolutely vital in what you guys are doing within Aberdeenshire. And that's my aim today, is to help you get the most of it. We believe that words can't hold us back and shouldn't hold us back, because through inclusive education, we can make education for absolutely everyone. Key aspect of that is everyone learns differently, and when inclusion is done right, all students benefit from that. One of the key elements of the Read and Write toolbar, whenever we get into the live demo today, is that because everyone learns differently, everyone will have a different set of feature requirements that they can have, and they can customize that toolbar to meet their exact needs as an individual learner. With the right type of support, every learner in every subject can understand more and achieve more. And some of those challenges, like dyslexia, for example, can be hugely supported with the use of Read and Write. This is quite a common stat now that you'll probably all be aware of, but officially 10% of us in the UK are believed to be dyslexic, and the belief is that that is probably even higher than that. So that's 1 in every 10 students in our classrooms. So getting the right tools and providing the right tools to students with any literacy challenge or difficulty can be transformative in the education of any student struggling with a literacy difficulty. Not just dyslexia, but SEND in general. The tools that we provide in Read and Write in Aberdeenshire help students in special education learn and express themselves like never before. And another stat, one last stat, almost 22% is the percentage of pupils in all UK sectors who receive SEN support that have been identified with speech, language, and communication needs. One of the things that I get to experience in TextHelp all day or every day with my colleagues and co-workers, the talents of different thinkers far outweigh the learning challenges that many experience. And given those right tools, many of the challenges can be overcome through the like of our Read and Write toolbar. I am aware that there's a little bit of a mix in Aberdeenshire. Some schools tend to use Microsoft and Windows as their predominant learning platform. Some schools tend to focus on Google as their learning platform. So I'm going to balance that out today and do a little bit of both. This is the Read and Write for Google Chrome toolbar, but we work in connection with Google, Windows, and Apple as well. This is the Read and Write for Windows toolbar that we're going to be focusing on first, complete with all the tools to help support students' reading, writing, and understanding and comprehension of the content. We also are compatible with iPad, that offers help with everyday tasks like reading text aloud, understanding unfamiliar words, and supporting writing, working across every app on the web, including a dedicated writing app within iPad as well. And also, most recently, this may be news to you, but Read and Write for iPhone as well. Phones tend to be there's not many students nowadays, I imagine, you come across that don't have some sort of phone, and predominantly iPhones as well, like the one I've got sitting here on my desk beside me. So being able to provide them with that support through text-to-speech, dictionaries, spell checking on a phone is strides forward from TextHelp there as well. The core aims of Read and Write, helping every student read, write, and even sit in exams with confidence. Not just, we've mentioned a lot there, SEN students, and we've mentioned dyslexia, but students where English perhaps isn't their first language, but not just students that are struggling with particular challenges. Read and Write can help support absolutely every student with everyday tasks, like proofing written work, perhaps your high achieving students before they make that final submission of an assignment, giving it that final proof to eliminate or to eradicate any final errors. There are, it's a suite of over 20 literacy support tools, including text-to-speech, and it gives students that choice for how they engage with the content and help improve their reading and writing skills along the way. And the essential support will then be in the hands of your SEN learners, as well as for students where English is an additional language, and now all of a sudden they're thrust into an environment where they're learning everything in English. So those specific accessibility tools alongside the reading and writing tools help to create that level playing field for all. And one thing that I really like that ties everything together, using Read and Write as your normal way of working, giving students confidence and independence on a day-to-day basis in school and at home, they can then take that same support with them into an exam room at the end of the year, in line with JCQ and SQA guidelines, to help support them and allow them to go into that exam more independent and providing them with confidence. And of course, as we go through school, and that's actually where we're going to finish the slideshow there and get into the demo. You know, we're going through school. Perhaps some kids will go into the workplace straight away. Some pupils will go into further education, higher education. But creating those independent learners through the support of Read and Write is fantastic, phenomenal preparation for later life. Most of us all on this call will use a computer a lot of the time for our day-to-day roles, and you know, many workplaces are exactly the same, where you've got a device of some description to do your day-to-day role. And you know, having that ability to use Read and Write on a day-to-day basis in school really equips you well for using the same tools in later life whenever you enter the workplace. So that sort of sets the scene and highlights the context around what we're going to be demonstrating today. My desktop, unfortunately, is so messy and untidy that I tend to hide all my icons. Normally, you would see Read and Write for Windows, the purple jigsaw appearing somewhere in your desktop, but I've just got it pinned to my taskbar here at the bottom. So I'm going to open that up. And while that loads, I'm going to start off with Microsoft Word, first of all, and going back to the fundamentals of Read and Write, that text-to-speech and giving students the ability to read text aloud, whether it's because they're really, really struggling with their reading and even to read text, let alone build an understanding of it, or maybe they are proofing that written work before making final submissions. So I'm going to open up just a generic geography document. We tend to use volcanoes quite a bit whenever I'm demonstrating. It's a topic I've become interested in through Read and Write demonstrations. But one thing just to make you aware of that might be interesting, those of you that have been using Read and Write now for a number of years, we have added in a lot of voices recently into Read and Write. So I've just gone into the Read and Write settings over here at the right. I've clicked on Show More Settings, and by clicking on Speech, this is where we would set up a voice that's going to read the text back to us. So from the voice drop down, you'll see here that straight away, whenever you open up Read and Write, I imagine it'll be the same for you guys. You'll have a wide variety of voices now available automatically whenever you open up Read and Write for the first time. One thing that I was particularly excited about, given that I was going to be speaking to you guys in Aberdeenshire today, we have some additional Scottish voices made available as default, and I really like Stuart, so I'm going to stick with Stuart today, and that's what I'm going to use for the purposes of demonstration. But that's the settings. We'll come back and spend more time on the settings and how we can adjust the settings to meet our own individual needs in just a little while. But I'm going to get stuck into some of the main core features of Read and Write first of all. And the first one is text-to-speech and how we have things read aloud like Word documents, and pretty universal symbol for play, and it also says play underneath it. So click on the text where you want to begin reading, and then click on the play icon to have the text read.
A volcano is a conical hill or mountain formed by material from the mantle being forced through an opening or vent in the Earth's crust.
Julia or Jim, maybe you could let me know if you're able to hear that coming through your speakers okay?
Yeah, that was fine.
Perfect. That is perfect. I think that's really important. A lot of feedback we've been getting, if students can hear text read aloud in an accent that's familiar to them, they will find that a lot easier to retain that information, or certainly process that information whenever it is being read aloud. I'll take you into some of the various different ways that we can have text read aloud in just a moment. But of course, reading the text or having the text read aloud for us doesn't always mean that we're going to understand it. It will help, but doesn't always mean that we're going to understand, particularly some of the more difficult words in here like conical and mantle and things like that. So that's where, select volcano first of all, that's where we've got the comprehension features like dictionary and picture dictionary to help build that better understanding of what we are reading. These dialog boxes can be moved anywhere in the screen so that they're not interfering with any of the text as a student is working. And of course, the text-to-speech can be used through the dictionary as well And rather than have a student try to read through the text in the dictionary, they can have that read aloud by pressing play.
1. A mountain with a large hole in the top out of which gas and lava sometimes burst, or used to have burst in the past. The volcano erupted and destroyed, and then...
Okay. So that's how we can build a better understanding of a word by using the dictionary. Conical, and I always say whenever I use this, I hadn't a clue what the word conical meant the first time I opened this document myself, but by clicking on the picture dictionary, we can clearly see, oh, cone. So it's a cone-shaped hill or mountain, and all of a sudden we're starting to build up a better picture of what a volcano is. One added step where teachers or students can do to make more visual resources or have that visual beside the word that it represents is just drag and drop that image and drop it into place beside the word that it represents. That appears quite small on my screen, but that's just an image that's been dropped into the Word document, so that can be resized at any point. We can easily delete that image after a period of time. So really good for creating more visual resources. And just as that visual aid for students, as they're reading through a block of text, they have the ability to click on the picture dictionary and see what that word looks like there and then. Combining the dictionary and the picture dictionary, one of my favorite tools within Read and Write is the vocabulary table. This probably takes me back to whenever I was a teacher and used to spend a lot of time, far too much time thinking back on it now, creating keyword lists and vocab lists to introduce students to brand new topics. If a student's reading through a document like this with the support of Read and Write, and they highlight various words using one of the Read and Write highlighters, so I've just clicked on the word to highlight it, clicked on the yellow highlighter, and crust is another quite difficult word, and then even extinct. In terms of volcano, what on earth does extinct mean? Dormant as well, quite similar, and maybe erupts, you know, a word that I haven't been familiar with before. Or maybe a lot of these words are words that I know in my first language, but I've never encountered or don't understand in English. So now that I've highlighted some words that I'm having particular difficulty with, you'll see here I'm just going to add a feature to my toolbar. So in the Read and Write settings, this is a good indication for you for how you can customize your toolbar as well. If I scroll down in general settings, these are all of the features that are available to all students to support their reading, writing, and comprehension. If you want to add a feature, make sure that it's highlighted in purple just by clicking on it, okay, and it'll be added to the toolbar for you. Now that we've looked at picture dictionary and dictionary, I'm just going to remove those just to make a little bit more space for some other features. But every student can set up a feature set that is unique to them, and no matter what device they log on to in school, that profile will always follow them, and they'll always have access to the same feature set, the same voice that they've spent time setting up, and so on. So I've highlighted 6 keywords that I don't have a full understanding of yet that I want to find out more information and learn more about. So now that I've highlighted them, I'm going to click on the vocabulary list icon. I'll just go back and highlight those again now that I've added vocabulary successfully. Yep. And then click on the vocabulary list. And what now is happening is Read and Write is placing those 6 words into a brand new Word document and constructing a vocab table, which contains the word in the left column, the definition taken from the word dictionary in the second column, the image taken from the picture dictionary in the third column. So providing students with not only a definition, but a visual reference for what that word means to help build and aid that understanding. Of course, we can have the definitions read aloud from within the table using the play icon.
Or resembling a cone.
And then a really nice, I'm just going to stop the text reader there. What a lot of people have used the notes column for here is building upon your understanding. Now that you've seen a definition, you've seen an image for what the word means, how about trying to use that in a sentence to showcase your knowledge and understanding of that particular word? So that's just a brand new Word document. You can then save that vocab table. You can share it with many students. You can always add to that vocab table by just taking a tab and adding more rows and copying and pasting a new vocab table into it as well. And one thing I really like about it is with the definition for crust, you can see we've got a crust of bread in there. We've got crust of pie. But for students, it is really, really important for them to see and to know that the word crust can mean a variety of different things. And of course, you can remove any of those images that aren't contextually relevant in this case before providing a vocab table. But I think it's really beneficial to have all of those images in there. I should have said from the outset, I am more than happy to be stopped at any stage, or for anybody on the meeting today to ask a question straight away. Don't feel like you'll be interrupting me. In fact, you'll only be adding to the session if you ask a question or want to chip in at any stage.
Hi, Richard. Ewan's asked, is the Read and Write for iPhone available for users in Aberdeenshire who have access via their Glow accounts?
That is what I can do, Jim, is I can take a wee look at the license. It is the iPhone, Read and Write for iPhone is definitely available to all Aberdeenshire Council users. But what I think I'll do is I'll just double check and send you through the exact instructions to follow for pupils to get access to that.
Very good, thank you.
It's just a case of whether they would use either their Microsoft or Google account to verify them. I just need to make sure that that's definitely the case, or the alternative way of verifying that you're a user is via the product code. But I'll just double check on which one of those things that they need to verify themselves as a user and pass that to you, Jim.
Very good, thank you.
Perfect. 6 words are still highlighted there. So back into the Read and Write settings. And I'm going to add one more feature from the general settings, and it's the little paintbrush here. I'm going to remove the pink highlight. Little paintbrush is just a eraser. Shouldn't call it a paintbrush because it erases highlights. Should call it an eraser. Looks like a paintbrush though, and that removes any highlights from the document after you've added them. Now, before we move on to some other features to support reading, I just wanted to take you into the settings and give you a run through of how a student sets up their voice. So we've looked at general settings. A lot of these general settings are more around the aesthetics of the toolbar, you know, the button size, large, medium, small, the button style. Do we add color or do we want the clear buttons? The text on the toolbar, and this is a tip for any of you that are perhaps going to disseminate my session to anybody in your school or to any pupils. I would always recommend that the text is on the toolbar, because the text that that's referring to is the name of the feature. And I find that having the name of the feature underneath the icon just makes it a lot easier to showcase what each feature does. The toolbar color can be fully adjusted to any of the colors that we have available. And then, of course, we've got the feature set themselves. But if we go to speech within content, that's where we looked at the whole list of voices. I'll not go through those again, but you'll have an opportunity to go through those in your own time. But once you've set up a voice and tested a voice,
this is your new voice. Is it okay?
Using the test voice button, you're happy with it. The next step, and I think this is a major step to focus your students on, is the voice speed. If that voice is moving at a speed that's too fast, that can be very, very frustrating for students, and they can miss a lot of the information that they're trying to process. So I would always encourage students taking some time and just move the bubble along the tracker bar to either decrease, going closer to 0, or increase, moving closer to 100, the speed of that voice. The use of the arrow keys there, that's referring to the upward and downward arrow key on your keyboard to either increase or decrease the speed of the voice. That's just a little handy shortcut to have so that you don't have to go into the Read and Write settings each time. And some other little pointers that I wanted to give you from in here. And one thing to avoid perhaps with some students. At the moment, Stuart, the voice was reading a sentence at a time and then stopping. You can have one word read and a paragraph read at a time. Those are the different types of reading behavior. you're maybe thinking, well, why would I want to just one word read and then read the next word and so on? Perhaps if you're a high achieving student and every so often you're provided with content where there's one word within a sentence or one word within a paragraph that you don't understand, that's not familiar to you, you don't know how to pronounce, that's whenever you would use read by word. But for the majority of your students, I imagine read by sentence would be perfect. Continuous reading is something that I would tend to avoid with students that are having particular challenges with their reading. Continuous reading is fantastic for proofreading because the voice will start at the top of the document and not stop until it has completed the document or the PDF or the web page that you're currently on. Now, by having continuous reading turned on, that can be very overwhelming for a struggling reader. For a struggling reader, I would tend to keep continuous reading turned off to allow that student to work at a pace that they're fully comfortable with. So they would read a sentence at a time. They could go back and reread that sentence multiple times before then moving on confidently to the next sentence to start to process the information in the next sentence. So that's just a little tip that I would pass on to you there. For struggling readers, I would keep continuous reading turned off. Perfect for high achievers or for completing proofreading, or perhaps one thing I would use continuous reading for in the evenings whenever I was tired and finished a day's work, got my toddlers to bed, got some dinner, but I had some reports or some articles that I had to read. Using the multi-sensory element of read and write on continuous reading helps me to retain a lot more information rather than just staring at a page and trying to read through that. So that's a variety of different ways that I would use the behaviors within read and write there. Sticking to the topic of reading, I want to share with you how we would read PDFs. I'd mentioned in the presentation exams, and again, the same thing applies. We would read exam papers in a very, very similar way to we've already listened to the Scottish Stewart voice reading through this Word document. Now, it's slightly different to read a PDF. You'll see here PDF Reader. That's a feature within the Read and Write for Windows toolbar. If I click on PDF Reader and click on my desktop, get some resources stored in here. Oh, maybe not. I might have to go to, there we go. We'll just get a proper exam paper. A little bit outdated now, 2014. But this is your exam paper. You can see I've been in here with my highlighter. Oh, turn off click and speak. Been in highlighting some text. I'm going to erase those highlights. And then really easy to read a PDF here. All we do is simply ensure that click to speak is turned on, and you'll know it's turned on by the purple underline. And then all you have to do is click on the text to have it read.
Read Source 1. Children are sent to school to Young in the UK by Deborah Orr. What do you understand from the article about the issues of children in starting school? 8 marks.
There we go. So it's as easy as that to read any text within your PDF. So any PDF, that's exactly how you would open it and read it. And that's exactly the same for exam papers. Just been talking too much today. I'll take a quick drink. Normally does the trick. Again, sticking with the topic of reading and helping to support students' reading, we also have a virtual overlay built into Read and Write, which we call screen masking. I've just clicked and turned on screen masking, and you should now see that virtual overlay, that pale yellow that's been applied to my computer screen. Now, the purpose of the screen mask of the virtual overlay is to mitigate against visual perceptual issues like Mears-Irlen syndrome, or some of you may know Irlen syndrome of scotopic sensitivity, or to simply just reduce visual stress for students. Some of you may have seen students using a colored acetate over a bright white page, or some students may use tinted glasses to support with Irlen syndrome. This is included as part of the JCQ guidelines on access arrangements under other arrangements, where a virtual overlay is an acceptable arrangement in exams as well. So not only day to day, but students that require a virtual overlay can take that with them into exams as well. Now, the changing of the color, that is vital because we want to be able to customize that depending on the individual needs of the student that's using it. So I'm going to go into the screen masking settings. There's a little shortcut here, the screen masking settings wheel. And basically, I have got the background color selected. I can select any of the basic colors that we've got here, but it's much more beneficial to delve into the advanced colors. And using an RGB number, or which stands for the blend of red, green, and blue, I can basically tailor this to any color that exists in the form of an RGB number. So that can be set to any color that exists based on an RGB number to help support that student's exact individual needs. The other thing that we can apply here, which I think is a really, really useful tool as well, is a reading ruler. And if I close down the screen masking settings, the purpose of a reading ruler is to help students to focus on an area of text as they're reading through it. And you can see there, even without making the background color overly opaque, you can see that that really does its job by helping you to focus on an area of text that you're reading aloud. We also have the option, the reading light or the reading ruler there, we have the option to apply color to that as well, if that's the student preference, in exactly the same way that we applied the color to the screen mask initially. So one last thing that I want to show you in relation to reading, but before I do that, I'm going to show you, because there'll be natural concerns in the meeting room about, well, we've got Check-It in here, we had dictionaries, we had picture dictionaries and whatnot a minute ago. You know, students can't use those things in exams, so how do we get around that? And that very, very simply is a hidden setting within the Read and Write settings called exam mode. And up in here in the Find a Setting search box, I'm going to type in all one word, admin settings, and it's password protected. So you'd be tasked with setting up a password for that straight away. It's never good whenever you can't remember your own password. And that takes you into exam mode, where you can select an exam-friendly feature set that is compliant with JCQ, SQA guidelines, and then apply exam mode there and then for that user. And you can see that that restricts the toolbar to only features that are acceptable to be used in exams without negatively impacting the integrity of the exam. And if students ever thought that they knew how to beat the system, or they knew how to get features back on there, if we go back into the Read and Write settings, all they've got access to is to adjust their voice and to adjust their screen masking settings. They can't access any other features that would give them that unfair advantage. And I, for one, I am delighted that we still can change the voice and screen masking settings, just so that, you know, in an exam, the student can just slow down the voice if they want to take a little bit extra time over what they're reading in an exam situation. And then, of course, at the end of the exam, we can enter our password again and turn off exam mode so that the student can go back into class or back into study, complete with the full support of the Read and Write toolbar. One last thing just to show you before moving across to some web pages and the Read and Write for Google Chrome toolbar, which I want to finish up with today. I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to close down this PDF, and I'm going to give you an example. I'm also going to close down my Volcano document, and I'm going to go into PDF Reader, and I'm going to open up this particularly lovely PDF on environmental ethics. It doesn't even want to open. It's so bad. So you can see there, it's really high-level English for a start. It's been annotated. You can see annotations at the side, underlines. This is a perfect example of a PDF that has been created. It's just a photocopy that's been taken from a book, chapter 3 of a book, and just an image that's been converted to a PDF. Now, if you can see click to speak is turned on. I'm trying to click, I'm trying to access all of that text, but nothing's happening because this is just an image of text. And a bit like if you're a student that's struggling to read this text, it's very difficult to know what I can actually do with it next, or how I'm going to build a better understanding of this topic. But that's why I want to introduce you to our scanner. And this is all about making documents fully accessible for students. Using the scanner, we can select any files like that horrendously inaccessible PDF. We then have the option to, do we scan the entire document? I'm just going to cut that down to 4 pages for the interest of time today. And I'm going to, at this stage, you'll get the option to keep it in PDF format if you want to limit the editing opportunity to keep the structure of the PDF intact. Or you've got the option to make a Word document if you do want to make any edits to that PDF. So really, really good. Remember whenever I was teaching again, I used to find all sorts of PDFs, but thought, nah, it'd be brilliant if I could edit that or make changes to that so that it was perfect for that group of students or that individual student. So you can do that if you convert that to a Word document, but I'm going to keep it as a PDF. I'm going to click on scan, and then it asks me to save my new PDF. So I'm going to save it in the same area as Good Scan. And then once I click on save, the software does what's called an OCR scan. And OCR either stands for optical character recognition or optical character reading, does exactly the same thing. It's now scanning that PDF for any text that it recognizes. Now, once the scan's complete, you'll see a stark difference in how accessible that PDF is. First of all, I'll turn off click to speak. Now I can actually highlight and click on text, and this time I can have text read aloud.
Before beginning these arguments, I need to clarify how one proposed to test inadequate ENVI mental ethic.
So one slight mistake there in the way that environmental ethics was written, but that's now perfectly accessible PDF. If I didn't understand what the word adequate meant, I could always add back to my toolbar the dictionary and picture dictionary. From more settings, let's see, general. Adequate, click on the dictionary. And there we have our definition that can be read aloud. So not only allowing students to read the once inaccessible PDF, it also allows them to build a better understanding of the content that's contained. Any other questions there, Jim or Julia, that's coming in about any of the most recent features that we've covered there?
I put these settings apply for each user, so anytime they go on a different machine, the retains the whatever they set. I think it'll be yes. Yeah.
That's exactly.
And then my other question is that toolbar you've got. How is that toolbar there? I can't see how to get that.
This read and write toolbar here?
Yeah.
So I'll close that down. Oh, let's see.
Are you using Word Online at the moment? Is that, yeah, using Word?
No, it's actually offline.
All right,
What do we see? I've just sort of screen freeze for some reason.
Because I'm not sure how we get that toolbar, because that makes life a lot easier with that.
That's your standard read and write for Windows toolbar, James, or Jim, your offline toolbar.
Yeah.
But goodness, I'm not sure why my screen is frozen.
So do we have to get corporate to download that then? Because I don't think we have it on. I don't know if anybody else is listening. I don't think we have that on our machines.
Is it predominantly read and write for Google Chrome that you're using at the moment?
Yeah, that's what we tell people. It's Google Chrome. Yeah.
Hi, Jim. Can I just pitch in here?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've downloaded it onto some of our devices, some of our Windows laptops. We use the Microsoft plugin or the Microsoft version for that, but we predominantly use the Read&Write plugin via the Chrome extension. So if it can be downloaded, that would be even handier, particularly if we can get it for Chromebooks.
Okay, I'll let Richard answer that.
Got you. So the Windows version that you're currently looking at there, that is specifically for Windows devices. The beauty about the Chrome extension or the Chrome plugin, that's what you would use. So you can use the Chrome plugin on Windows devices. It's the Chrome extension, and that's exactly what you would use on Chromebooks as well, is the Chrome extension. But it contains the same features that we've been looking at there today. Read&Write for Google Chrome contains exactly the same feature set and exactly the same support for students as we've been looking at there within Windows. That's what I was just about to head across and show you, was the Read&Write for Google Chrome extension, and to show you the similar functionality or the same functionality as we've looked at there in Windows. But unfortunately, my entire screen has frozen. And
do you want to log off and then just come back in again, Richard?
Is that okay, Jim?
We'll wait here. We'll wait here for you.
Perfect. That's hilarious. I threatened it with the turn off, and now everything's back.
Now it's behaving.
I'm just thinking, wonder did I press something that wonder did I press something that actually froze the screen for a moment? But here we go. I will. There's our slideshow from earlier. So if I open up a web page and an article, I imagine this is what you guys are seeing predominantly and using predominantly, the little Read&Write for Google Chrome extension. That is perfect. And you'll see the highlighters in there. There's screen masking that we've looked at, screenshot reader, the text-to-speech dictionary, picture dictionary, and also the highlighters and the vocab table. All the same functionality. But this was the difference is Read&Write for Windows that we had started off with. If you're using the Microsoft suite on Windows devices, I would thoroughly recommend using Read&Write for Windows. But if you're using Google Docs, Google Slides, Google Chrome browser, I would recommend using the Read&Write for Google Chrome extension. Likewise, if you're using the Edge browser, we've got a Read&Write for Edge add-on, which is exactly the same as the Chrome extension. So all of that is available to you and included as part of your license. So it just really depends. Read&Write works with every platform, and it just depends what platform and what formats that you're using. That depends on the correct Read&Write toolbar that you would be using. If it's anything Windows related, I would use Read&Write for Windows. And if it's anything Chrome related, like a Chromebook or within the Google Chrome browser, I would use Read&Write for Google Chrome. That would be my best advice.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Okay.
Where's my microphone? Yeah, that makes sense. I noticed I've got the Read&Write extension on my Edge browser, so we'll have to find out if schools can do that as well.
And you've got access to push that out to schools as well. So and if there's anything I can help with there, just let me know. I'll be more than happy to help with working out the best rollout for any of those things, or if you need any of the deployment guides or anything like that, I can certainly help support that. So I'll give you another. This is a web page. Are we okay for time, guys? Is that?
No, that's okay. We've still got 15 minutes, I think, haven't we?
It was 3/4 of an hour, but if if people need to go, they can go, and it's being recorded. But it would be great, Richard, if you could just go on. If that's all right.
Not a problem at all, Julia. What I wanted to show you online on web pages, and I've picked this web page specifically as it's similar to a lot of articles and things that that students, if we're carrying out a research task for an assignment, where do we send our students? We send them online to find the best articles and supporting articles to help with the research for that. But what we've got, of course, Read and Write and the Read and Write toolbar will interact with all of this text in the web page. You know, we've got hover speech actually, which is an additional feature online, which allows us to hover.
More than a third of primary school pupils have it.
Over the text and have it read aloud. And we can use the dictionary in there as well. If we didn't know what the word pole meant, we could look that up in the dictionary and have a dictionary definition and read that aloud as well. But for me, in websites like this, and it's all too common in websites, we've got a massive pop-up coming up here, bright, eye-catching. We've got a huge image. I think I have to scroll 4 times on my mouse before I actually get into the main article. And then whenever I get there, there's advertisements popping up to the right. All of these things creating a huge distraction for me whenever all I'm trying to do is basically read through this article. So one thing that is different whenever we're online, and this is quite a new feature, is the Simplify Page button. And that Simplified Page button grabs the article from the original URL and places it into a new window, the Simplify window. It's still exactly the same article, but it strips out all the images, all the advertisements, and makes that much easier for a student to navigate through and digest. And there's no difference. We can still read all of the text in exactly the same way.
More than a third of primary.
We can use the picture dictionary and the dictionary to support us with our understanding of the article as well. So for me, it strips out all of the noise, all of the distractions, and allows the student to focus on that article itself. The Discover tab within Simplify means that the learnings doesn't have to end within this article. Everything that's underlined in purple, we can learn more information about. Just a case of clicking on the text, and we can use hover speech and dictionary to navigate through the text that's provided by Discover, and so on. That's the Discover tab. In relation to reading the text and how the text appears, we can have white text on a black background. We can have blue text on a yellow background and yellow text on a blue background, depending on the individual needs of the student. We can also select specific fonts that we want that article to appear in as well. If we wanted to select a dyslexia-friendly font like Lexend and increase the size of the text and make adjustments to the spacing, increase that to double line spacing. So if I was to apply yellow on blue in here, you can see from the initial web page, the initial article, we've managed to simplify that greatly in line with the students' needs there. Almost unrecognizable. But again, those are the features and that are in place to help make things as easy as possible for a student to interact with the content that's on this web page. I'm going to just reduce the size there for this next little bit. And it's still in beta form, but we have been looking at how we can incorporate AI into Read and Write. And one of the ways that we have incorporated, it's still in beta form, so it's not fully released yet and can be a little bit temperamental, but certainly worth exploring. If I click on AI button, what it does with that article is it provides me with a simple summary of that article. Now, if you can imagine, that really comes into its own. If you've got a 10-page or a 20-page article that it's summarizing, that is where it really comes into its own. But using the little AI button, that will provide you, rather than the entire article, it will provide you with a brief summary of what's included in that original article. So that was something I was really keen to show you online, and exactly the same if you're using the Edge browser and the Edge add-on. That's exactly what you'll experience and have exactly the same feature set. One other new feature to show you, some of you may have discovered this one already, but it's Rewordify. And for language that is perhaps advanced for certain students, Rewordify will apply italics to words that it feels can be simplified. Now, given the font that I've changed, let's take a look. So instead of using the word primary, first, school, what other words are multiple has been changed to many times. So Rewordify is picking out words, agency, a service, a business, government unit. So Rewordify provides us with other options to simplify the text and simplify the language of words contained within that article as well. So within Simplify, we've got Discover. We've got the ability to change the appearance of the text, the font, the spacing that occurs. With AI, we've got the ability to simplify and provide a summary of the article. And with Rewordify, it helps us to identify alternatives to words that might be deemed as complex by Rewordify. And moving away slightly from, and this is still focusing on Read and Write for Google Chrome. I'm going to drag across, because one of the things that we hadn't focused on just yet, we spent a lot of time looking at reading. This document, you can see straight away there are a lot of errors. Now, the reason I've selected some of these errors is just to showcase everything that Check-It has the power to check and prompt a student to amend. Check-It is this little feature on the toolbar, and again, it works in exactly the same way in Read and Write for Windows. There's no difference there. But I'm now in a Google Doc, so I'm using the Read and Write for Google Chrome extension. And if I click on Check-It, Check-It then analyzes my Google Doc for anything that it identifies as an error, a spelling error, a homophone error, but not just your homophones like there, and there. Any words that might be deemed to be a confusable word or easy to confuse for another word. An example that we would provide trials of Read and Write, but sometimes I would provide trails of Read and Write, mixing up that A and I in the middle of the word. So not just classic homophones, but also words that are easy to confuse. And also, as you'll see in the second line, this particular line, phonetic spellers. I'm sure you're probably thinking about students that you know already that are phonetic spellers. And Read and Write and Check-It within Read and Write has the ability to pick up on those errors as well. Now, if I click, first of all, on the word dear, you'll see that Check-It has identified an alternative word, and probably at this stage you're thinking, well, that's what a spell checker does. That's what I would expect it to do. What's so great about that? But the thing that is really, really beneficial to students about Read and Write is we can use Read and Write in connection with the dictionary and in connection with the picture dictionary. Oh. We'll try that again. It got stuck on me. And the picture dictionary, so that whenever I'm hovering over the list of suggested words, I can do that independently, and I can use the images, and I can also use the dictionary definitions by reading them aloud to make a really informed decision as to what is the word that I should have been using initially before moving on with confidence after selecting the word that I intended to use. Moving on to glasses. Now, the first thing that you'll notice here is, as I hover over the word glasses that's been spelled incorrectly, there's no dictionary match for that word, and there's no match in the picture dictionary for that word either, which is a perfect indication that, okay, I have made a spelling error here, and this word doesn't actually exist. And simply then, whenever I hover through the list of recommended words or suggested words, we can see that there's glasses, and we can listen to the dictionary definition and select the word that we intended to use before moving on. And then just a final example, physics. Again, there's no match for that word, but you can see there that it has picked up that that's a phonetic spelling error and provides us with the word physics. Can't imagine too many students writing that sentence right now. Certainly I wasn't writing that sentence whenever I was at school, but that hopefully gives you an idea of how Check-It works. So not only making suggestions, It's allowing students to become independent and responsible for their own spellings and learning through the use of the dictionary and picture dictionary in the process, and then moving on with confidence that, yep, I've got that right. That was definitely the correct spelling. And before moving on to the next one.
I see it didn't highlight waiting.
Let's see if we change been. It's a good point, Jim.
But like anything else, it's being very good, and it's probably missing a few, but that's going to make the document. Yeah.
It possibly comes down to this. This is one of these documents I tend to use quite a bit. So
at some point you might have accepted that as the correct spelling or something, maybe.
I think you see there's an ignore button down here.
Oh yeah, that's what you've done, yeah.
So sometimes I tend to do that, but no, it is extremely accurate, and yeah, every so often we should probably refresh these documents completely and refresh Read and Write to remove anything that we've ignored, because yeah, if we ever press the ignore, that ignore is really, really useful, because if there was something that you wanted to or intended using, but Read and Write's like, oh, you might want to take a look at this, you know, ignore will make sure that Read and Write ignores that going forward. But yeah, if you do that by mistake or do it quickly like I did, it means that it won't be underlined. So I imagine that's what I've probably done in that case.
I suppose that's important, because if we were speaking about the LoveLearning team, then LoveLearning, we would ignore that because that's a brand. Yeah, that would do that. Yeah, that's fine. That's explained that. Thank you.
There was ones like the way we spell, you know, Read and Write is spelt with an ampersand and no spaces. Equatio is spelt with a capital I and capital O at the end of it. All of those things we would have to ignore spellings like that, a bit the same as the LoveLearning. But prediction to support with writing. I imagine, like all of us, we've seen reluctant writers for a variety of different reasons. Struggling writers, writers that are struggling to construct sentences, writers that are perhaps reluctant to use words because they don't know the spelling of those words. But with prediction, if I was starting to type a story, you'll see that prediction provides me with a panel containing 8 words that I could use in my text next. So if I selected the word, I'm starting to write a story once upon a time, I can select once, and the list of predicted words changes upon a time, when, the, and so on. Again, using the dictionary and picture dictionary, I can hover through the list of predicted words, see what it looks like in an image, listen to the dictionary definition, and insert that word with a bit of confidence that I've got that right. Was, there we go, and so on. One of the things that I particularly like about that is I'd mentioned there, if you don't, you know, a lot of students know how to use a word verbally and have an understanding of a word, but whenever it comes to writing, whether they're a struggling writer, maybe English isn't their first language and now all of a sudden they're writing in English and spelling is a little bit more of an issue, rather than become reluctant to use a word which they know because they can't spell it, if they can at least spell the first 2-3 letters of that word, it will appear in prediction and give them that confidence to go ahead and use it with the use of the picture dictionary and dictionary, so that they are making full use of the vocabulary that they actually know and building confidence in their vocabulary as well and bringing that to their writing. So there's a few very, very good points, a very few very, very good ways that prediction can be used to support student writing. And again, prediction is exactly the same in Read and Write for Windows there as well. And one last one, really, really accurate feature. It's one that we include in the toolbar. It's actually the Google Talk and Type, but just so that all features, whether it be text to speech, building an understanding, dictation, so it's all included in one toolbar. We include access to Google's Talk and Type in the Read and Write for Google Chrome. We include the Windows version of Talk and Type in the Read and Write for Windows toolbar as well. When the microphone's blazing red like that, it is picking up what we're saying. So all we would do is click on the microphone and start dictating into the microphone on your laptop, or if you had a headset with a microphone. A volcano is a conical hill or mountain formed by material from the mantle being forced through an opening or vent in the Earth's crust. Full stop. I am not a volcano expert. I've just seen that sentence many, many times. And you can see from that there's only one small error, and some of the things that we can do to eradicate any errors like that, we'd always be prompted to, or it's always good practice to proofread our work, so we could go back, read that sentence aloud, and that would help us to identify that there was one error that I could say. I don't think there's any other errors other than hill. So really, really accurate, and a really, really good way for students, again, to get their thoughts and their knowledge down on the Google Doc if they are struggling with their writing. And that is everything in Read and Write that we had planned to cover. I just popped up this slide again because that's the team and that's the email address to get in touch. And guys, thanks a million for listening, and I hope you found it beneficial. And I am in no hurry away, so I'm more than happy to answer any further questions that you might have.
Smashing. That was great, Richard. Thanks very much.
There's no more questions in the chat, so maybe we're all asked. I think if you send us that stuff about the Windows stuff, I'll see IT, see what we can do about that, and that'll be good. But it's been really good, Richard. Thank you.
Lots of useful things. Yeah,
My
I love
pleasure.
that